Stop joking around. Enough with the mocking. I angrily threw the box containing the dress into the trash can. Hey, what are you doing? Throwing away what your son gifted his child is just awful. Susan confronted me with these words. Can you still say that after seeing this? I showed her something that turned her face pale. My name is Mary, a 38-year-old office worker. I've been married to my husband Joe for nearly 10 years now. Joe and I met at a party. Joe was there at a party thrown by a mutual friend. Ah, found a smoker. I'm going to sit over there. I used to smoke back then, but I've since quit. I loved rock music and often went to live music venues as a college student. I got hooked seeing everyone around me smoking and enjoying their drinks while watching the live performances. By the time I started working, there was a big push for no smoking and segregated smoking areas, and I, as a smoker, felt quite constrained. At that party, only Joe and I were smokers. I thought I'd be the only smoker and sat at a corner table, lighting a cigarette. He came over, looking delighted to see another smoker. Just being smokers gave us a sense of closeness, but we also shared a love for rock music. He often went to music festivals, and we liked many of the same bands. We hit it off and spent the whole party talking just to each other. We exchanged contact information, started seeing each other, and then began dating. Being with someone who shared my interests was comforting, and he was fun to be around. Our relationship progressed smoothly, and after dating for about 2 years, he proposed. Mary, marry me. I want to be with you forever, he said, offering me a ring. I immediately accepted, and we decided to get married. I thought life with him would always be fun. But marriage taught me it's not just about the couple. Nice to meet you. I'm Mary. This happened during my first family meeting at my in-laws' house. My mother-in-law Susan was cold towards me. So, you're Mary. I've heard about you from Joe, but are you really suitable to be my son's wife? What? Did you graduate from college? Yes, I did graduate. I see. And where do you work? Susan grilled me with questions like an interviewer. Come on, don't interrogate her like that. Mike, you're too soft. As a mother, I just want my child to be happy. Susan was very strict, almost overprotective, like a mother hen. I wondered if marrying him was really the right decision. I was genuinely concerned. But still, my love for him outweighed those doubts. I'm seriously involved with Joe and really want to marry him. If there's anything I'm lacking or you're concerned about, I'd appreciate your guidance, Susan, I said, asking her for advice. Susan looked shocked, and then quickly averted her gaze. If I find anything unsatisfactory, I won't hold back, she said, almost spitting the words out. I was anxious about getting along with Susan, but I didn't want to give in, even if she harassed me. I think that's the rock spirit in me, never backing down. Later, when I met my parents, Susan bombarded them with questions too, which was a bit unpleasant. My parents too. It was like being interrogated, they said, a bit taken aback. And finally, he and I managed to have our wedding without any issues. Thankfully, Susan didn't say anything during the ceremony, so I could focus on my wedding without worries. Then Joe and I went on our honeymoon, and after returning, we started our married life together. Life with Joe was so much fun. He always made me laugh, but whenever we visited his family for Thanksgiving or Christmas, I felt a bit down. Mary, do you cook properly every day? Are you feeding Joe nutritious meals? Oh yes, I cook every day. What exactly do you cook? Well, soups, steaks. Do you make sure he eats fish? You need to think about nutritional balance and make sure he eats vegetables. Well, Joe doesn't like fish much. I know that, and that's why I used to finely chop it into pasta sauce or make cod in a cream sauce. You should do the same. Ah, I'm sorry. Really, can I trust you to take care of my son? I felt like Susan was overly doting on her son. The kind of menu Susan prepared might be easy for a housewife, but it was quite a challenge for someone working full-time like me. But it seemed like Susan didn't take my situation into consideration, and often complained. That's why I wasn't keen on visiting my in-laws' house. However, Joe valued his family, or rather he was overprotected by Susan and liked her. I thought he was a bit of a mama's boy. So we invariably went to his parents' house for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and sometimes he would take me there on other occasions too. Each time, Susan watched me with a critical eye, which made me uncomfortable. 3 years into our marriage, I got pregnant.
Really? Are you sure?
Yes, the doctor confirmed it.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary.
Joe was overjoyed about my pregnancy, and I was happy too. Both my parents and my in-laws congratulated us. I was excited about starting my new life as a mother. But pregnancy was tough. I was prone to getting sick, and even eating was a struggle. When I discussed it with Joe, he said,
"I'm not good at housework."
He was sympathetic, but not much help. There was still time before I could take maternity leave, and my mother couldn't come home easily as she lived in the countryside. That's when,
"Why don't we ask Mom to come over?"
Joe suggested. I was speechless. The thought of living with Susan, who had always been harsh with me, especially when I was physically and emotionally vulnerable, during pregnancy was unbearable. I'm not sure about that," I blurted out, and Joe was surprised.
"Why not? Her house is close, and it would be best. You'd appreciate Mom's help with the housework, right? It makes the most sense. I'll call her right away."
Wait a minute. Joe decided on his own. Before I knew it, Susan was coming over every day to help with the housework. "Susan, thank you for helping out from today."
"Sure thing."
I was extremely anxious. I expected Susan to nitpick everything. I thought she would criticize me for not cleaning properly, or for having a messy fridge. But surprisingly, Susan wasn't as harsh with me as I had expected.
"How are you feeling?"
"I'm okay, thank you."
"Good. I made a salad. Have some."
"Thank you. It's delicious."
"Glad to hear that."
The salad Susan prepared had boiled and shredded chicken breast, sliced tomatoes and croutons on lettuce, topped with her homemade dressing. The dressing was exquisite, light and refreshing, making it easy to eat even when I felt unwell.
When I was pregnant, I couldn't eat much either, so I got my nutrients from light salads like this.
I see.
If there's anything you don't like, let me know.
Thank you. I'm fine with everything.
Okay then, I'll come again tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Susan wasn't one to show a smile, but she took great care of me. She continued to come every day, handling the housework efficiently without burdening me. Susan was an excellent cook, preparing many delicious dishes that even I could eat. Thanks to her, I was able to spend my pregnancy days calmly without any stress.
See, I told you it was the right decision to ask Mom for help.
You were right, Joe. Thanks for calling Susan. Then I went on maternity leave, but there was no need to go back to my parents' house because Susan helped with the chores and took care of me. Susan, I really appreciate everything you do.
It's fine. That's what family is for, to support each other during tough times.
Susan. Maybe I had misunderstood Susan. I thought she was a troublesome person who doted on her son and saw her daughter-in-law as an adversary, but that wasn't the case. She accepted me as part of the family and was strict because of that. A few months passed and I gave birth. It was a healthy baby girl.
You did well. Congratulations.
Thank you, Susan. Susan congratulated and comforted me. My parents also came to celebrate the birth. Joe managed to get away from work and was thrilled about the arrival of our daughter. Thus, with the arrival of our new family member, Joe and I began our life as a family of 3. Susan's help with our daughter, Karen, during my maternity leave was invaluable. Karen grew quickly, learning words early on. Mom, Dad, she began calling Joe and me. Time flew by as I raised her, and soon she was 5 and attending kindergarten. While I balanced work and parenting, Susan considerately helped with Karen.
Today, Karen and I played house.
Grandma and I had so much fun. That's great to hear.
Speaking of which, is Joe coming home late again today?
Yes, he seems to have a lot of overtime lately.
I see. It's good to be busy at work, but he should also make time for his daughter.
You're right. Joe started coming home later and later around this time. Of course, since we work at the same company, I understand that his responsibilities have increased over the years. But even so, his return time has been getting later and later. And on weekends, he often goes out alone, saying his friends invited him. Initially, Karen was close to her dad, but lately she's given up on him as he's become less involved. Seeing her looking lonely made me angry at Joe. "Hey, could you spend a little more time playing with Karen?" I said to Joe one day, but he looked annoyed.
"I'm working hard every day, and I'm tired. You should be the one playing with her."
Is that really okay for a dad?
"Annoying. Whoever can do childcare should do it,"
Joe said, ending the conversation abruptly and going to his room. Wait a minute! I was dumbfounded by his behavior. Moreover, although Joe appears to be working hard, I earn more as I work for a better company. Despite working hard and doing the household chores, I'm bearing a greater burden than Joe. It's infuriating to be told as if he has it harder. During this time of frustration, something unexpected happened. The story goes back a bit. One holiday, Karen said she wanted to wear a new dress for her elementary school entrance ceremony. Joe was home unusually.
"Great, I will buy it for you,"
he said. I was surprised Joe said that, but Karen was delighted, which warmed my heart. "Yay! Then I want a light blue dress."
"Okay, got it."
I was happy to think that Joe was considering our daughter. But days passed and there was no sign of Joe buying the dress. The entrance ceremony was just a week away. Maybe he'll buy it next weekend, I thought, but Joe went out again, saying his friends invited him. Had he already prepared it? I became very anxious. During this time, Susan came over to help with Karen's care.
"There's a lot to prepare for the entrance ceremony, isn't there?"
"Thank you, Susan."
"Is Joe not here again?"
"That's right."
"What could Joe be doing at a time like this?"
Susan, too, was clearly frustrated that Joe had recently stopped taking part in caring for Karen. Then, something startling happened. While my daughter, Susan, and I were at home, the doorbell rang with a delivery. It was a package addressed to Karen. The sender's name was Joe, and it was marked as children's clothing. Thinking it might be the dress, Karen and I opened the box. But the dress inside wasn't the light blue one she had wanted. It was black. What's this? I felt a surge of anger looking at the color. It was so black, like something one would wear to a funeral. This wasn't appropriate for an entrance ceremony. Then I found a letter on top of the dress, which made me even angrier. "Dear Mary, a gift from Joe and me to Karen. It's a pricey dress worth $1,000, so please use it carefully. Maybe for your funeral, for example. Stop joking around. Enough with the mocking." I angrily threw the box with the dress into the trash can.
"Hey, what are you doing?"
Susan was furious.
"Throwing away a gift your son gave to his daughter is terrible. Karen will be sad."
Confronted by Susan, I calmly replied, "Can you still say that after seeing this?" I showed her the letter, and her face turned pale.
"What's this? Does this mean Joe is having an affair?"
"It's possible." I collapsed to my knees in shock. I couldn't believe such a thing was happening to me.
"Mary, are you okay?"
Susan rushed to me, concerned. "Susan, I'm sorry."
"No, I'm the one who should apologize for yelling."
Karen, not fully understanding what was happening, just saw me faltering and came over worried. "Mom, are you okay?" "Karen, I'm sorry for worrying you. I'm okay. This dress was delivered by mistake. Dad will buy the right blue one next time, so let's wait a little longer." "Okay, I understand." After calming down, Susan and I decided to investigate the truth. We left Karen with my father-in-law and waited for Joe.
"I'm home."
"Welcome back."
"Joe, I bought your favorite Mont Blanc cake. Want some?"
"Really?
Yes, I love it."
Joe has a sweet tooth, especially for cakes, so Susan used sweets to catch Joe off guard.
"I'll prepare some iced coffee."
"Thanks." As Joe was fixated on the Mont Blanc in front of him, Susan approached with iced coffee, but deliberately spilled it on his clothes.
"Whoa, Mom, what are you doing?"
"Sorry, you better take that off quickly before it stains." Susan urged Joe to change his clothes. Caught off guard, Joe left his mobile phone on the table and went to change. While Susan was following Joe, I opened Joe's mobile phone. He had said it was set to his birthday. When I entered the lock number, I could access Joe's mobile phone.
I found the text with his mistress and took photos with my phone. Then, "Come over now. I want to introduce you to Mom. My wife is out with our daughter." I messaged the mistress from Joe's phone. Immediately, a reply came. "Finally decided to leave her and be with me? I'm so happy." Great, the mistress will come here now. And indeed, after some minutes, the mistress arrived. When I opened the door and led her to the living room, Joe was shocked.
"Sarah, why are you here?"
"Why, you invited me. You said you wanted to introduce me to your parents."
"I didn't do anything like that."
"What are you talking about? You sent me a message."
Joe checked his phone in a panic and realized I had sent the message.
"Mary, you messed with my phone. That's despicable."
Joe was furious at me, but Susan got angry at Joe's response.
"The lowest of the low is you. How dare you betray your wife and daughter like this? To hurt your family instead of protecting them. You should be ashamed."
"Mom." Joe was surprised to be scolded by Susan, who usually sided with him. I asked Joe about the black dress. "Did you know about the black dress that Sarah sent to Karen?"
"What?"
"This dress came with a letter like this." Joe seemed unaware as he read the letter, speechless. Sarah smirked triumphantly.
"You did this, Sarah?"
"Well, Karen wanted a dress. So I bought her one. It's a designer brand. Cost $1,000.
"Are you insane? Making our affair public and even involving my daughter in it?"
"Well, I thought you'd never leave her otherwise."
"What are you talking about? I'm not divorcing."
"What?" Sarah was shocked by Joe's statement. "Why? I'm better than her."
"Shut up. It was just a fling with you."
"No way." Sarah broke down in tears. I realized how despicable Joe was. So I told him, "We're obviously getting a divorce."
"What?"
"Do you realize what you've done? You've betrayed our family. I never want to see you again. I want a divorce now."
"Wait, if you divorce me, you'll have trouble. No support from Mom. And you'll be taking Karen's father away."
"That's not a threat. Susan said she'd support me in parenting even if we divorced. Karen has almost given up on you anyway. We're definitely divorcing. You don't want to divorce because I earn more than double your income, right? You'll lose those benefits." Sarah, hearing this, "What do you mean?" confronted Joe. Joe pale-faced.
"I hardly paid any living expenses here, so I could spend lots on dates with you,"
he explained to Sarah. "So you can't afford a luxurious life for me if we get married?" Joe nodded, and Sarah was furious. "Joke's on you. I don't need a man without money." Sarah stormed out of the house. "Running away won't help. I'm still going to sue for compensation," I said to her. For a moment, Sarah froze, but then she left the house through the front door and was gone.
"Joe, you're an embarrassment as a son. Don't see me or Mary again."
Susan disowned Joe, who was left in a state of shock. Later, I sought compensation from Joe and Sarah through a lawyer, and demanded child support from Joe post-divorce. Rumors at Joe's workplace about his affair, and now second divorce, left him feeling isolated. I also sent a copy of the distasteful letter Sarah sent to her employer, so she too faced cold shoulders at work. Meanwhile, Karen and I are living happily. Susan occasionally visits us, allowing me to balance work and parenting without any trouble. As a single mother, I plan to continue raising my daughter with all the support I can get.